Imagine Rome, not the eternal city, but a fragile whisper against a backdrop of consuming fire. Ash fell like tears. Hush fell over her, then the brutal echo of an unthinkable, terrifying silence. Hope became a memory. Gold, they demanded. And then, a blade's scorn, a chieftain's chilling declaration. Woe to the vanquished. High on the hill, a desperate few clung to their last breath, their future hanging by a delicate thread. Yet, this was not the Rome you know, the empire etched in stone and legend. No, not yet. This was a fledgling republic, a tender shoot, dreaming of greatness in a world far more dangerous. Its citizens, much like us, lived their daily lives, believing in their city's steady, hopeful rise. They built their homes, tilled their soil, rarely imagining their very world might one day crumble. Life here flowed gently, like the river, unaware of the approaching storm gathering on the horizon. But what if that fragile promise, that nascent dream, faced utter, absolute annihilation? What then? What if the very heart of Rome, its soul, was reduced to nothing but dust and forgotten embers, its people scattered, its future shattered, hanging by the thinnest thread imaginable? Can you conceive it? Centuries before Caesar, before emperors and legions, Rome teetered on the very edge of ceasing, a history almost lost, almost erased, a turning point few truly grasp. It felt truly final. This is a story of how close Rome came to never rising again, to being just a forgotten legend. It's a tale not just of battles and dates, but of the human spirit's profound capacity for survival. We'll delve deep, beyond the myths, to feel the terror, the desperation, and the sheer will to endure. Let us journey back, my friend, to a time when Rome was but a whisper away from silence. We'll gather around this digital fire, listening to the echoes of that fateful, burning day. A day that forged Rome's soul, hardening its spirit in a crucible of unthinkable, terrifying despair. It's a foundational story, shaping every brick and every ambition that followed. A truly profound moment. So, settle in, for we are about to uncover the secret of the day Rome nearly vanished forever. The Italian heartland, a tapestry of life, whispered tales untold. Ancient lands, ancient rhythms, stretching into memory. Here, life moved slowly, tied to the land's gentle pulse. Generations lived, loved, and passed on quietly. Many tribes called this peninsula home, each with their own way. A diverse, vibrant mosaic, ever evolving. Among them, a young republic, Rome, was finding its footing. A nascent power, quietly, steadily growing. They built with purpose, with a quiet determination, a steady hand shaping its own destiny, day by day. Rome felt its strength, a burgeoning confidence in its own might. Yet, its reach was still quite regional. Within its walls, the Republic fostered a spirit unique to them, a belief in their future, their ordered way. Its influence spread, like ripples in a calm pond. Slowly, steadily, but only to its immediate neighbors. They believed in their gods, their laws, their way of life. A comforting anchor in a world still so uncertain, a hopeful future lay before them. A path they forged daily, unaware of shadows gathering far, far to the north. Beyond the mountains, a different world stirred, a realm of mist, ancient trees, and unfamiliar, powerful tribes. There, where the sun seemed to set differently, a new energy pulsed, a migratory force, driven by ancient needs. These were the Gauls, a Celtic people from distant lands, fierce warriors with hearts as wild as the winds. Their lives were bound by the axe, the spear, the shield, a world defined by honor, by battle, by movement. They moved like the seasons, following ancient paths, a restless spirit, forever seeking new horizons, new challenges. To the Romans, they were barbarians, a stark unknown, a primal force, powerful, unpredictable, coming from the north. Slowly, relentlessly, their tide began to turn south. A powerful current, pushing through the northern Italian lands. Reports trickled down, carried by fearful whispers. Tales of fierce battles, of villages overrun, of lands claimed. The Italian tribes, so diverse, now shared a common fear. An ominous shadow stretched longer with each passing day. Unease grew, a chilling wind blowing from beyond the Alps, a foreboding sense of change, profound and inevitable. Even in Rome, a distant tremor was felt. News of these Gauls began to filter into their confident city. The whispers turned to urgent discussions, then fearful warnings. This unknown force was drawing closer, threatening all. The lines on their maps blurred, challenged by this new reality. A world once known, now felt increasingly precarious. Their confidence, once so unwavering, now faced a test. A formidable, perceived unknown, poised at their very doorstep. Order met chaos, civilization faced the wild. Two worlds on a collision course, utterly unprepared for impact. The air grew heavy with anticipation, a silent tension. A storm was not just brewing, it was now truly upon them. This was the crucible, the stage set for an epic clash. A nascent Rome, facing its first true, terrifying reckoning. Rome, in her youthful strength, believed herself touched by fate's golden hand, truly invincible. A quiet confidence, perhaps, but one that sometimes whispered too loudly of invulnerability. This quiet pride, like a slow-burning ember, would soon ignite a devastating, unforeseen fire. Far north, beyond their familiar world, another story was unfolding in the Etruscan lands. The ancient city of Clusium, a proud Etruscan heart, found itself encircled, besieged. These were the Gauls, formidable and swift, their presence a storm on the horizon. Their demands for land, for passage, were met with fear, not understanding, by the Etruscans. Rome, ever watchful, sent forth envoys, men of stature, to observe, to mediate. Their mission was clear: uphold neutrality, speak with both sides, then report back truthfully. A delicate balance, fragile as old parchment, rested upon their diplomatic wisdom, their restraint. But to Roman eyes, this was not just a siege. It stirred something deeper, more ancestral within them. The lure of battle, the old warrior spirit, proved too strong to resist, a dangerous whisper. They abandoned their sacred duty, their neutrality, to join the fray, a choice deeply fateful. Swords clashing, shields ringing, diplomatic protocol shattered, replaced by the roar of conflict. Their hubris, their certainty of superiority, clouded judgment, twisting their honorable purpose. Amidst the chaos, a Gaulish chieftain, brave and powerful, led his people with fierce resolve. In the thick of it all, a confrontation, an envoy's blade met a chieftain's unwavering spirit, and then, the unspeakable. A chieftain fell, struck down by a Roman hand, a life extinguished. His death, by an envoy's sword, was more than a loss. It was a profound, grave insult. The field fell silent, then erupted. A collective gasp, then a storm of Gaulish fury. Their chieftain, fallen by deception. An unholy act, demanding blood, demanding sacred retribution. An intense outrage boiled over. "Justice," they cried, "for this betrayal, this unforgivable transgression." Their demand was clear, echoing across the plains. Surrender the envoys, or face their wrath. These envoys, who so carelessly broke trust, now stood accused, their lives forfeit. The message, swift and dire, reached the Roman Senate, a test of their wisdom. The Gauls asked for accountability, for an ancient law of nations to be upheld. But pride, a stubborn vine, had taken root, choking the voices of reason and prudence. The Senate, blinded by its own perceived greatness, arrogantly refused to surrender its own. "These are Romans," they declared, their words dripping with disdain. "We do not yield them." This refusal, this blatant disregard for their customs, ignited a furious, unquenchable fire. That moment, that single arrogant refusal, was the spark, the true beginning of the coming storm. The road to war was now open, paved by Roman pride and Gaulish indignation. A heavy shadow now fell across the land, a bitter harvest sown by their own hand. Whispers first, carried by the wind from distant fields. Then, a chilling truth began its relentless journey toward Rome. From the fertile plains of Gaul, an army, unlike any Rome had ever faced, was now swiftly approaching. The ground trembled faintly, a sound that promised not rain, but an unyielding storm of clashing bronze and war cries. They saw them, these Gauls, a terrifying sea of painted bodies, fierce eyes, and a hunger for conquest. Fear, cold and stark, gripped their hearts. This was no raiding party. This was an unstoppable wave of destruction. The news reached Rome not as a dignified messenger's report, but as a desperate, fragmented gasp for help. The elders, usually so calm, spoke in hushed, worried tones. This was no ordinary border skirmish. Whispers spread like wildfire through the marketplace. The air grew heavy, thick with unspoken dread and uncertainty. Disbelief warred with stark reality. Could this ancient city, so proud, truly face such an unthinkable threat? Life continued, yet beneath the surface, a tremor began. A city, once so secure, felt the ground shifting. Families spoke in hushed tones, the silence between their words louder than any clamor. What would tomorrow bring? The initial disbelief faded, replaced by a cold, hard realization. The wolf was not at the door, but charging it. Panic began to bloom. A city, usually bustling, now pulsed with a nervous energy, a constant hum of apprehension. Some began to leave, carrying what they could. The roads out of Rome were no longer just for trade. The military, usually so disciplined, scrambled. Young men, barely trained, now looked to defend an ancient legacy. Even the gods were invoked. Desperate prayers echoing through ancient temples, hope became a fragile, precious commodity. The streets, once vibrant, now saw hurried footsteps, fearful glances. The usual rhythms of life were shattered. For mothers, the fear was raw, primal. Protecting their little ones became the only thought, the only prayer. Leaders debated, their voices strained, facing an enemy no one truly understood. This was uncharted, terrifying territory. Rome, once invincible in its own mind, now braced itself. The unthinkable was not just possible, it was imminent. They were unready, so utterly unprepared. Generations had known peace, forgetting the sharp edge of true terror. The tools of war, long dormant, were hastily roused. Every clang echoed the city's growing desperation. Rome's walls, though strong, felt suddenly permeable. This was a force that might simply flow over them. Such a cataclysm was beyond their comprehension. How could their proud city fall? It felt like a nightmare. Parents tried to explain, to soothe, but their own fear was a palpable thing. The shadow grew longer. Hasty preparations, a rushed assembly. This wasn't the meticulous Roman war machine, but a desperate gathering. Old armor was retrieved, shields dusted off. The muscle memory of battle had grown weak with years of peace. Commanders spoke words of courage, but their gazes held a deep, unsettling apprehension for the trials ahead. The city watched them leave, a silent procession of hope and despair. So many might never return. Every prayer, every blessing felt like a desperate plea against an enemy that seemed to defy all understanding. Their gear was insufficient, their training incomplete. They were Rome's sons, but not her finest warriors. The ranks were too few, stretched thin across a wide plain. They were an echo of Rome's true power. Experience was lacking, and the enemy was formidable. This was not a fair fight, but a desperate gamble. The decision was made, driven by urgency and a glimmer of hope. Confront them at the Allia River. They marched, a somber procession toward destiny. The sun beat down, illuminating their resolve and their fear. Then, they appeared. A wave of humanity, roaring, painted, utterly terrifying. The air itself seemed to shudder. The battle began, a brief, brutal symphony of steel. The Roman lines, so proud, splintered under the Gaulish fury. Then, an impossible wave. Rome's strength, once so mighty, shattered in a single, horrifying moment. It was over. An utter rout. Discipline, courage, all dissolved into a desperate, every man for himself scramble for survival. The shouts of command turned to screams of terror. The proud Roman legion simply ceased to exist that day. Never before had Rome's military might crumbled so completely. It was a wound that would scar their collective soul. And so, they fled. A flood of survivors, broken, humiliated, scrambling back to the very city they had failed. The city gates, open in their desperation, welcomed them not with cheers, but with the silent terror of defeat. The news spread like a plague, carried by every terrified face. Rome was exposed, vulnerable, and deeply afraid. The whispers of disaster, carried on the wind, now became a torrent of panicked feet rushing homeward. Their spirit, once so fierce, was now a fragile flame, flickering against a bitter, conquering gale. Rome's embrace, usually so reassuring, now felt like a desperate, suffocating grasp, barely holding them. Fear, like a venomous serpent, coiled around every heart, whispering tales of impending, unimaginable ruin. She watched, knowing in her bones that something vital, something sacred, had irrevocably been lost today. Within the city's heart, leaders wrestled with a truth too vast, too terrible for easy words. The city, vast and magnificent, was now a sprawling burden, impossible to protect entirely from danger. Below, Rome slept, unaware of the agonizing decisions being made high above its slumbering, vulnerable heart. The choice, when it came, was a blade to the heart: abandon their city, their beloved home. To save Rome, they had to let go of much that made it Rome, a cruel, desperate bargain. Hope, a tiny, defiant spark, clung to the highest ground, Capitol Hill, their final sanctuary. Every stone laid, every barricade raised, was a prayer whispered against the encroaching darkness. They carried not just earthly possessions, but the very soul of Rome, its sacred fire, its history. The eternal flame, a beacon of their enduring spirit, ascended, a fragile promise against oblivion. From these hallowed heights, he looked upon a Rome he could no longer protect, a terrible, bitter sight. The hill became an island of defiance, a small, stubborn heart beating amidst a city's impending silence. A silent farewell to hearth and home, a heavy price for survival, for Rome's distant hope. Under the relentless sun, a grim resolve settled upon them, a silent pact against fate. Each stone laid, a testament to their enduring spirit, a defiant whisper against the coming storm. The horizon held a shadowed promise. The Gauls were coming, closer now, their destructive intent palpable. It stood, a lonely sentinel, awaiting the inevitable, holding onto a flicker of what was lost. Their vigil began, a desperate hope clinging to the ramparts, a final, fragile stand. This blade, this hill, this spirit, their last defense against an overwhelming, vengeful foe. The city, once vibrant, now lay silent, a haunting canvas awaiting the brushstrokes of devastation. From the ashes of despair, a fortress arose, a testament to unwavering courage, a final stand. Within those walls, life's fragile flame burned, shielded by duty, sustained by a desperate hope. Innocence clutched at tiny comforts, while the adults braced for a storm beyond their imagining. Each rasp of steel, a grim lullaby for the coming battle, a sharpening of purpose. The future of Rome, a whispered prayer in the night, rested upon their weary, resolute shoulders. It waited, a lone heart beating in the silence, for the morning's stark, brutal awakening. The dawn brought not comfort, but a horrifying spectacle. The Gauls, like a tide, engulfed Rome. His breath caught. The enemy was here, a wave of chaos breaking upon the cherished city. Below them, their beloved Rome began to burn, a horrifying, beautiful inferno of their past. Grief mingled with defiance. They watched their world shatter, yet stood firm, unyielding. The primal scream of the invaders, a harrowing sound, tore through the fragile morning air. He watched the destruction of his city, a profound, agonizing wound to his very soul. They were an island in a sea of fire, the last flicker of Rome's once mighty, luminous spirit. Their innocent eyes witnessed a devastation that would forever mark their memories, their tender hearts. He prayed, a desperate plea to gods who seemed to have abandoned their beloved, fated city. The very air they breathed carried the bitter taste of loss, the ashes of their former lives. Her song, a haunting melody, spoke of a Rome now gone, a melody for memory. It stood, a lonely peak above the raging storm, holding the last breath of a dying empire. The eagle, scarred yet defiant, still flew, a symbol of Rome's unyielding, indomitable will. And there it was, Rome, engulfed by fire, a desperate last stand, etched forever in time's cruel memory. An eerie quiet now embraced the city, a profound stillness where life once boomed. Where were Rome's people? They marched through empty squares, past silent fountains, a city simply abandoned, an unsettling, hollow victory indeed. No clamor of citizens, no sounds of children playing, only the echo of their own footsteps disturbing the vast emptiness. This was not the conquest they had envisioned. The silence itself felt like a strange, unseen opponent there. What secrets did these silent walls hold? What ghosts lingered within the deserted halls of this once proud city? Life had simply ceased, frozen in time. A hurried departure, or something far more profound, had occurred here. This quiet was a predator's quiet, a silence that hummed with untold stories, with a palpable, unsettling expectation. Then, a discovery. Not emptiness, but a presence. A stillness that was not absence, but profound, dignified resolve. These were the men who chose to stay, to face their fate with an unwavering gaze, a silent, powerful testament. They sat, monuments to an age, refusing to flee, embodying the very spirit of the Rome that was now falling. Their eyes held no fear, only a quiet acceptance, a legacy silently passed to an unknowing, turbulent future. Even the hardened Gauls paused, confronted by such an unexpected, unsettling display of unyielding, quiet strength. Across the city, in various homes, the same scene unfolded, a tapestry of defiance woven in silence and dignity. They held fast to their honor even as their world crumbled. A final, poignant act of love for a beloved city. But mercy was a luxury the desperate could ill afford. The grim reality of conquest, swiftly, brutally, awoke. The silence shattered, not with a scream, but with the chilling thud of inevitable, crushing violence. A grim, echoing sound. One by one, the guardians of old Rome fell. Their quiet dignity met with an impatient, brutal, irreversible end. The legacy they so bravely sought to protect now threatened to vanish into the ashes of this brutal, burning day. The invaders carried out their grim task, extinguishing the last embers of resistance with a cold, unforgiving efficiency. With each life taken, a piece of Rome died too, a quiet, horrifying symphony of loss echoing through those ancient halls. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky red, as if bleeding for the sacrifices made within these hallowed walls. The last defiant whispers of old Rome faded into the growing darkness. A new, terrifying chapter now had begun. Their silent vigil ended, their sacrifice a stark reminder of the immense, profound cost of unwavering, ancient loyalty. And then, the inferno. Rome, once a beacon of order, became a canvas of chaos, painted by consuming, hungry flames. Looting began in earnest, treasures plundered from homes and temples, precious memories vanishing in the grasping hands. The beauty of Roman artistry, centuries in the making, now carelessly discarded, shattered, fading amidst destructive fury. Even the gods themselves seemed to abandon their temples, as sacred flames consumed the altars, reaching for the heavens. The heart of Rome, where debates once echoed, now choked by acrid smoke, its grandeur slowly, relentlessly consumed. The city screamed not with human voices, but with the hungry, relentless crackle of fire, an unholy, devouring sound. Centuries of learning, stories, and laws, all reduced to smoke and embers, fading into the dark, indifferent sky. Rome, the eternal city, now burned. A terrifying, beautiful inferno, illuminating the darkness with its painful, vibrant glow. Ash fell like sorrowful snow, covering everything, a grey shroud over the vibrant, proud city that was once here. They moved like specters through the inferno, their conquest marked by the utter destruction of a once great civilization. Even in ruin, a stark beauty remained, a defiant spirit refusing to be utterly consumed, a hope for the future. Amidst the devastation, small reminders of life's abrupt halt, a child's toy, now a relic of a vanished, peaceful past. But one bastion remained, defiant amidst the flames. Capitol Hill, a final, desperate haven for Rome's last hope. Above the burning city, brave Romans stood guard, their courage a flickering flame against the overwhelming darkness below. The Gauls, restless and eager, encircled the hill, their hunger for conquest not yet sated, not with Rome's heart beating. Wave after wave they surged, clawing their way up the treacherous slopes, their war cries echoing against Roman resolve. Every rock, every spear, every desperate push was a testament to their will to endure, to hold this last, sacred ground. Under the cloak of night, a different kind of attack emerged, a silent, insidious threat, creeping up hidden, shadowed paths. Then, a sound, not a human cry, but the urgent honking of geese, piercing the night stillness. A divine, saving alarm. Malleus, awakened, sprinted to the wall, his sword a swift, decisive answer to the Gauls' cunning night attack. The citadel held, against all odds, saved by sacred birds. Rome's heart, though battered, beat on for another day. The city, once so proud, lay a ruin. Just smoke and ash remained, a silent, terrible witness. Yet, a flicker of resistance held firm on the Capitoline, a small flame against the encroaching darkness. They clung to their last bastion, these Romans, their hearts heavy, but their spirits unbroken. For now, the Gauls looked up, a shadow of irritation crossing their faces. The conquest was not yet complete. Days turned to weeks. The capital's stores dwindled, like sand slipping through desperate fingers. Hunger became a constant companion, a dull ache that gnawed at their very bones. A cruel, invisible enemy. Even the victors began to falter. The long wait gnawed at them, too, a silent, creeping despair. They were far from home, these warriors. The spoils of war now felt distant, almost meaningless, in this stagnant camp. Disease, that indiscriminate killer, swept through both camps, a reminder of shared fragility, even in war. Despair settled heavy in the air. A choice loomed: starvation or a humbling beyond imagination. Then came the messenger, a solitary figure carrying the weight of a city's broken pride. A somber journey. The choices were grim, unthinkable. Yet, for the sake of survival, they swallowed their bitter pride. Across the chasm of ruin, words were exchanged. Not of victory or defiance, but of a desperate, painful surrender. The price was staggering, a mountain of gold for their devastated home. An insult piled upon injury. Their hearts sank, heavy as stone. To pay for their own city's return, how utterly, deeply humiliating. From the ashes, what little wealth remained was gathered. A city's meager treasures now demanded by conquerors. The scales, instruments of commerce, now became symbols of utter subjugation. A chilling silence fell. They watched, these invaders, with greedy eyes, weighing Rome's very essence, a spectacle of profound degradation. The precious metal piled high, yet still, it was not enough. The weight of their demands grew heavier. A plea for fairness, for some small measure of justice, was met with contempt. Their pleas were empty. Then Brennus stepped forward, a shadow falling over everything. The air grew thick with his impending cruel decree. His sword, a symbol of their brute force, crashed onto the scales. "Woe to the vanquished," he sneered. And so, they left. Those Gauls, their pockets heavy. Rome remained, broken, but slowly she would rise. The city lay broken, a silent testament to a terror that had swept through its very heart, leaving only ash. The silence spoke of loss, a heavy blanket of sorrow settling over every soul who dared to look upon the devastation. Yet, even in the deepest despair, a flicker, a quiet resolve to reclaim what was lost, to begin anew. The monumental task of rebuilding, physically and spiritually, stretched before them like an endless, daunting path. Each stone lifted, each beam raised, was a shared breath, a collective whisper against the crushing weight of ruin. Homes began to rise, not grand, but sturdy. Foundations laid with tears, yet holding the promise of tomorrow. The scars ran deeper than stone, etched into the very spirit of the people, a quiet ache that lingered. But trauma, a crucible of suffering, can sometimes forge an identity stronger, more resilient than before. This raw wound, the memory of the sack, became an indelible part of their Roman soul, shaping everything. The event became a foundational myth, whispered from generation to generation, binding them in shared experience. A story told not just in words, but in the echoes of fire, forever etched into the heart of Rome. From the depths of their suffering, an unparalleled sense of resilience began to bloom, slow but steady. A fierce, unyielding determination, forged in the heat of destruction, a quiet strength that would endure. Never again, a whispered oath, carried on the wind, a solemn vow across the recovering city's quiet ruins. The military culture shifted, an obsession born, preventing such a devastating defeat from ever happening again. Immediate reforms took shape, concrete plans for stronger defenses, a city learning from its painful past. The Servian wall, not merely stone and mortar, became a powerful testament to their enduring, unyielding resolve. Each stone laid was a silent prayer, a promise of protection for future generations, built with hopeful hands. Military preparedness became institutionalized, a constant, vigilant spirit woven into the very fabric of Roman life. Training grounds echoed with purpose. Soldiers tirelessly honed their discipline, driven by a collective memory and fear. This crucible of fire hardened Rome's very core, forging an unbreakable will, a destiny undeniable and profound. It laid the groundwork, silently, powerfully, for its future dominance, for an empire yet to truly dawn. From unimaginable pain, a legacy was born. An indomitable spirit, resilient and eternal, began its ascent. The ashes settled long ago, yet the echoes of that dark day still whisper through time, shaping Rome's eternal legacy. What seemed like utter ruin, a death knell for a fledgling city, became something else entirely. It was a crucible, burning away weakness, forging an iron will from the very heart of despair. That wound, deep and raw, redefined their path, setting them on an unstoppable course through history. A mere speck on the Tiber's banks, vulnerable and unassuming, its ambitions then seemed humble. Yet from those ashes, a disciplined, unwavering resolve emerged, transforming their very essence. This ordeal fueled an unyielding drive, pushing them relentlessly to dominate every corner of the known world. The cost was immense, but the wisdom gained from that traumatic experience proved truly invaluable. Never again would they be caught unaware. Vigilance became their watchword, strength their constant pursuit, and resilience, that stubborn refusal to yield, became etched deep into Rome's very soul. If this journey through history resonated, please consider leaving a like to support our shared exploration. And for more deep dives into the currents of the past, join our community by subscribing now. What do you believe was Rome's most profound lesson from its darkest hour? Share your wisdom below. For even in ruin, a people can find the unbreakable spirit that truly shapes their eternal legacy.